It's a pleasure to welcome everybody to the Salk Institute for yet another Women in Science program. I'm Rebecca Newman, the Vice President of External Relations, and it's just wonderful to have such a great crowd, a full house. I think there are going to be more people filtering in, but for those of you who have been here many times before, you might have noticed we flipped our program around today because it is so gorgeous outside. We decided, how can we not have our reception outside after our talk? So that's what we're doing. And I want to thank Betsy Reese right up front, who runs this program for the Office of External Relations, because she does a fabulous job. And you know, we are so fortunate in the San Diego community to have a place like the Salk Institute. And you know that the Institute was created to attract the best and the brightest scientific minds in the world and allow those individuals to come to a place where they could work in a very collaborative and entrepreneurial environment on the basic questions of human biology. And hard to believe, but beginning this fall, we will be celebrating the 100th anniversary of the birthday of the Salk Institute's founder, Jonas Salk. And I think that we can be very proud to say that to this day, we are continuing his vision of discovery and innovation. It's still very much intact, and it's a very important part of the way we do our work here. And exemplifying that, you may have seen in the papers this week, in 1 week, we had 2 front-page stories of discoveries coming out of Salk Laboratories. One out of Ron Evans' Gene Expression Laboratory regarding a new potential therapy for type 2 diabetes. Ron has discovered that using a protein, FGF1, a single injection of that protein is enough to restore blood sugar to normal levels for 2 days at a time, which would be a significant step forward in the ordinary therapies that most diabetics have to endure on a daily basis. And then following right on the heels of that was another front-page story about Reuben Shaw coming out of the Cellular and Molecular Biology Laboratory. He has identified a gene that inhibits metastases from lung tumors and thereby leading to some potential new therapeutics for treating what is certainly one of the most deadly cancers that we know of. So, you know, we really think that the atmosphere that we have here in the Salk is constantly, I should say, you know, inspiring our faculty to work on innovative and groundbreaking projects that result in new discoveries that impact all the human health for all of us. And this Women in Science program continues to grow, and we think that we, in this program, are also an extension of Jonas Salk's original vision, because we are providing to the community a vehicle by which people who care can learn more about the science that is being done here. And it has a further overlay of having the ability to promote women on our faculty who pursue challenging careers. And we hope that we can inspire you to invest in their work, and because these are the women who are going to become, if they're not already, they will become the leaders in their field. I want you to know we have just recruited yet another new female assistant professor in the Cancer Center. Diana Hargreaves will be joining us from Stanford University's School of Medicine, and she specializes in biochemistry and epigenetics and is aiming to uncover how mutations in a cell's nucleus contribute to tumor creation. And we look forward to welcoming Diana in the fall, and hopefully she'll be one of the future speakers at our Women in Science meetings. Over the next couple of months, Betsy Reese is going to organize a small group of our volunteers from this program to help make some decisions regarding our first Women in Science fundraising initiative, which we hope to launch in October. And one of the goals of launching a very specific and targeted fundraising initiative would be to provide one of our female faculty members with either an innovation grant or a special financial reward for some aspect of her research. And for those of you who are not familiar with innovation grants, this is a program that we started at the Institute about 5 years ago. And what it does is provide seed money for high-risk research projects that are too early stage to receive funding from more traditional funding sources such as government agencies as NIH or even from major foundations. And frankly, the reality today is that the funding climate is such that a lot of novel ideas never get brought to fruition because they are too high risk, they are too early stage to attract major funding sources. So what we hope to do by providing innovation grants is to provide seed funding that ranges from $50,000 to $150,000 that gets spent over a period of about a year to 18 months, and it allows the development of novel ideas to see if they actually have legs and can be moved along sufficiently to qualify for federal funding or for major foundation grants. And one of the beauties of this program so far has been that we have been able to leverage a relatively small amount of money to achieve an incredible return. In the last 5 years, the Institute, through the generosity of Irwin and Joan Jacobs and funders from New York, one of our major foundations, we have invested a total of about $4.5 million in these innovation grants. The grants faculty are invited to submit twice a year their most novel ideas. These ideas are peer-reviewed, and 3 or 4 are accepted to be funded in each round. And in that 5 years, our $4.5 million has generated over $28 million in federal research grants for those novel projects. So obviously the return on investment like that is incredible. I can give you one example from one of our women faculty. Just this past year, Clodagh O'Shea, who I believe spoke at the last meeting, Betsy, so many of you know Clodagh. Clodagh had an idea for a novel use of a viral therapy in treating various forms of cancer, and she put this idea up for an innovation grant a year ago and was given, about a year and a half ago, a $150,000 grant. And she has taken this research far enough that in May she was awarded based on the same project, a $1 million Keck Foundation award, and has just gotten another $1 million award from a major foundation in New York because she has moved the research far enough along that it really has efficacy, and major players want to see her continue her work. So this is the kind of impact that we can make with a relatively small amount of money. So these kinds of breakthroughs by our scientists are what drives discovery, and we hope that as we launch our first fundraising initiative for Women in Science, that you will partner with us, and we will be able to help our women faculty members achieve even greater heights. So now, before I introduce today's faculty host, Ursula Belugi, I just want to remind you all that Symphony at Salk will be this year's Saturday evening, August 23rd. We have the wonderful Matthew Morrison, star of Glee and star of many Broadway shows, as our guest artist, along with Thomas Wilkins, who's been a guest conductor for us for now 10 years. And we also have a special surprise that will be happening at this year's symphony, which I'm not at liberty to discuss, but please make sure that you attend, and you can get ticket information from any one of us. Saturday night, August 23rd, quintessential summer event for the Salk Institute. And now, our lovely faculty host, Ursula Belugi, who joined the Salk Institute in 1968, one of our founding faculty members. She is the professor and director of the Laboratory for Cognitive Neuroscience. She is an absolute pioneer in discovering the biological foundations of language. Her research on Williams syndrome has provided an understanding of how brain structure and function relate to cognitive capabilities. She is a woman who has led the way in her field for many, many years, and she is going to introduce today's speaker. So Ursula, please.
Whoops. Thank you, Carol. Well, just a great delight to be here. This is something so special and exciting for me, to be in the position of introducing this young, brilliant, exciting woman scientist. And we're a wonderful pair. I think we're a kind of wonderful in terms of oppositions and things coming together. So I think this is one of the most exciting opportunities I've ever had to present, and also because it represents something for me in terms of knowing Jonas Salk and what his vision was when the Institute was molecular biology and me at the beginning. All right, and he kind of looked out for me a little bit in the unusual path that I had taken, only because, I think primarily because he wanted to make sure that things were working across disciplines. He was really very, very interested and committed to that. And what's so pretty is that we'll come back at the end to, in fact, we are making collaborations across very disparate disciplines. All right. So I'm delighted to be introducing our speaker. There. Right. Carol Machetto is just a brilliant scientist, but she's extremely special. She was a scientist from the beginning, I think, from what I understand and what she's told me. Unlike others of us, she really was a scientist at heart, very, very young, and always exploring things, exploring in new directions. And the new directions involved science, but they also involved movement, they also involved art. They have, she has great passions in many different directions that don't usually come together. They don't in me, I must say. but they're really wonderful and very, very beautiful. I want to say that Carol has got her degree in 2005 in Brazil, and she has awards from Brazil, Germany, America, a whole series of awards, and then came to the Salk Institute first just to fit in as a postdoc, and has risen very, very rapidly in her area and in her field, and she's now a mentor to many. She's brilliant in what she does. She has a passion for art, for yoga, for dance, for movement and science, and communication, and that's an extraordinary combination. One of the things that I treasure very much is that she is Rusty Gage, who is the director of her lab, talks about Carol. She has a remarkable ability to discover experiments and to work out the details of experiments and to see how to take an extremely new field, because the particular field she's in, she'll tell you about, but it's only been around for a few years, and it's grown into being able to understand so much more profoundly in so many different ways, evolution, brain disorders, brain development, and and many different fields, and she'll tell you about it, and that's thrilling. She also loves talking with people, and she's extremely good at mentoring. She's written some beautiful papers, and I strongly recommend them. They're very, very exciting reading, and yet at the same time, very advanced and innovative, very innovative. So that's just wonderful. And one of the things that I'm so happy to tell you, she's going to be talking with you about all of her work in autism disorders. However, this is one way in which we've ended up collaborating. I have worked for some years and had a program project on something that's in some ways the opposite of autism, but the opposite in an interesting way. Autism is a behavioral study having to do with difficulties in communication, difficulties in social abilities, and Williams syndrome is well-known genetically and easily described genetically, and yet results in a combination of things, but that include being overly social. So I'll quote a Williams or two. One of them said, "Everybody in the world is my friend," which is charming, but it also represents the difficulty. And another one said, "If you have to have a syndrome, Williams is a cool one to have." And so one of the things we've been doing that map us together is we have had a study using a fairy godmother tooth kit, where we collect dental pulp from Williams families and compare them to normal, and they can eventually be compared to autism. And there's some very exciting things coming out of that, which will result soon in a paper that will include the two of us plus other people from both laboratories, and it's an exciting thing. We hope to tell you about it another time. But I don't want to take any more time. You're in for a thrill and an excitement, and I'm very, very happy to be introducing Carol Machetto.